Hello and welcome to another episode of C-Suite Conversations. If you're very lucky, you come across leaders who marry silk and steel beautifully. And today, we're speaking with one such leader whose interests across business, spirituality, mentorship, learning and so much more make up the perfect modern day leader. With me today is Kalyan Ram Madabhushi, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the Pulp and Fibre business at Aditya Birla Group. With that said, let's dive into conversation. Kalyan Ram Madabhushi joined the Aditya Birla Group in early 2018 as CEO and business head to lead its global chemicals business together with its fertilizers and insulators business. Recently, he also led the global pulp and textile fiber operations. He's currently on several boards as director in both executive and non-executive capacities. Before joining the group, he worked with Royal Dutch Shell in the Netherlands and Singapore for more than 2 decades, and he last worked as Global General Manager in Shell Downstream Chemicals business. He also held board director roles in Europe as a member, as well as chairman and president of the boards. Mr. Madabhushi holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from NIT Warangal and a master's degree from the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. He continued his executive leadership learning at IMD Switzerland and University of Oxford and has played a key role in making the Aditya Birla Group a trusted raw material partner for the global textile and non-woven value chain, representing a perfect melange of nature and science. Marksman Daily presents C-Suite Conversations. So with us today is Mr. Kalyan Ram Madabhushi. Mr. Madabhushi, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us on this episode of C-Suite Conversations.
Pleasure is mine, Karan.
When I was reading up on you, I've gone through your profile, your career, your trajectory. It's been that you've worked with companies of great renown, of great stature. But looking back to the start of it all, of your journey, but were there any words of wisdom given to you as a young professional that sorted out your professional trajectory?
First of all, I've worked across all the 3 regions. It's Asia Pacific and Middle East, North America, and Europe, Africa. You learn a lot just being in 3 different regions, whether it is cultural side of it, diversity, inclusiveness side of it, whether it is balancing between Eastern and Western leadership value. All this you would learn, but before I exactly respond to your point, we learn and we gain exposures from 3 levels. One is when we are actually young, inculcating from parents. You get more about how to be humble, humility side of it, how to share, how to respect others, the integrity, all that you learn from there. And then the second level is from your teachers, professors, your line managers actually, who then start to also strengthen your previous values that you gain and the new values that you will start to imbibe. And the third level is your own experience. You learn what's and how to cope with adversity, how to cope with success, how to cope with stress, how to appreciate diversity, inclusiveness. All this you will learn when you're yourself experiencing. When I remember when I was starting in the early part, first 2 years, I did well in terms of doing my master's from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. First job was pretty good, but within 2 years I was restless. I took a risk, a perfectly secure job, and then went to Singapore, where I knew the risk of me getting back within 3 months was very high, and then I took that risk. So one thing I look back and say, generally our risk perception and the ability to take risk is very high when you are young. And so people should take advantage of it. There'll be a lot of people surrounding you telling you that, parents or friends, don't take that risk. It has a big challenge and then you will have consequences, but you need to take that risk. The second one, it was because of that risk, I could eventually join Shell, the Royal Dutch Shell, which is top 5 Fortune 500 company. And early part of the career itself, I learned 2 key words, and that I still use. One is winning and other is values. Everything is about these two. You want to strive to be the very best, and you want to compete hard, and you want to win. But you want to win in the long term, not taking shortcuts, and making sure you are never sacrificing your values when you're winning. These two, risk and then going for winning and values, are the two things I can think of.
So in the build up to this interaction, I went through your LinkedIn and one line really jumped out at me, that the only true sustainable competitive advantage that we might have is being able to learn better than our competitors. I found that idea very fascinating because we are in a bit of a knowledge economy, and the more you learn, the more you can disseminate that learning. It matters a lot in today's day and age. Talk to us a bit about that and what it takes for leaders to learn better, to move faster.
So I even here in the role which I took, one of the key things I've been telling the teams is about learning agility. Why do we do that? First of all, as you get your budgets and yearly plans and what you want to achieve over the next 3 years, you will realize that slowly every activity that you do is around that inward established targets. And so you're slowly becoming very inward looking. And then you are no longer checking whether others are doing better. So one of the key things I keep telling people is to have external orientation. Thinking what others are doing. For example, if somebody is in supply chain, constantly in the group, suppose we are checking how well we have done compared to past year, or other group company, I would say, who is the best supply chain company in the world, and how are we doing it relative to that company, and see how do we close the gap. For that, you need to have the curiosity and the external orientation to constantly, in spite of being under pressure, you're doing day in and day out, busy until 9. How are you keeping an extra half an hour, 1 hour just to look outside what others are doing? I did gain that habit where I used to have in the afternoon every Friday. Today happens to be that. For 1 or 2 hours in the afternoon, I block the calendar long before, and it's not for anyone, only for me, just thinking, thinking about what is it that I need to do so that next year things will be better, not this year. So for that, then you will have to look outside. So the learning aspect of it is you have to keep on feeling that whatever you're doing is sometimes most inward looking, others are doing better, the curiosity to find out that. So that behavior has to be there, and it is inculcated over a period of time. You do it, and once you get into a habit, automatically you will have that learning aptitude.
So over the course of these many Friday afternoons, sitting with either your cup of chai, coffee, whatever your poison is, and reflecting inwardly, what are the kind of capabilities or capital, so to speak, or intelligences that you believe leaders today need to have, to succeed at their role in this fast-moving age?
Good question. In the sense, first of all, if you see great leaders, you see certain characteristics afterwards, then you realize, oh, that must have been the reason for great leaders. One of the things is they seem to inspire me. Anyone you see, you listen to that person and you get inspired. Second is they seem to be able to communicate, engage, collaborate. They are able to explain what they want to do in a very simple way. They typically have very good strategic clarity. The clarity of thought and vision. And then you will see whatever they said, they eventually delivered. And most leaders that you will remember, if you see the last 30 years, invariably they seem to have done much more than what they were expected to do, and hence they left a legacy. So if you see that automatically becomes the leadership qualities or leadership traits or what leaders bring in. constantly I would think more around, am I clear? What is it that we want to do over the next 5 years? If so, what does it mean to do in the next 3 years? And hence, what should it be for the next 1 year? Am I able to explain it very simply? Where are we today? Point A. Where do we want to be? Point B. How do I get there? Some clarity around it. And then explaining to the teams and saying, guys, here is what it is. Do you have a better way to do it? And explaining that. I'm constantly thinking about this and simplifying where we want to get to. The more complicated you make, the more difficult the task becomes.
This communication that you speak of, this sense of clarity and purpose and strategic vision, does it differ all that much from region to region, like you spoke, from the Middle East to Europe to Asia, or are there some commonalities that just do not go away?
I learned a lot just working with multiple regions. Let me give you an example. This is a blatant generalization, but broadly, if there is an area that there is a project that we want to do, and then we want to announce and engage with people. So I used to go to, if I go to Houston, and then I used to have a town hall session there. The questions that come in during the town hall session is, by the way, why do we want to do this project? Where do we want to get to? What is the core purpose? Is that worth it? What's in it for me? Is the questions I get in Americas, I used to get a lot. In Europe and Africa, I used to get questions exactly the same point. I used to get questions like, well, you must have thought of why we are doing this. The project may be big.
Purpose.
Yeah, what are the structures and processes that we have? So how do I make sure I'm doing my job correctly? So is there a proper standard operating procedure? Have we already thought through? So they more on processes and structures.
Okay.
Once you come to Asia, I used to have the Japanese, the Korean, the Singaporean, the Indian, the Chinese. They say, as leaders, you must have thought why we should do it. You must be having already work streams and all that who are actually creating process and structures. Tell me exactly by when I need to deliver this. And I'll find a way to deliver. Now, that doesn't mean others don't ask, but there is a very executionist mindset in Asia Pacific, Middle East, I thought, in a very structural mindset in Europe, and a very conceptual mindset in US. Now, all these are important wherever you are. Even in India, I get asked all three questions, all three ways. But what I mean is, you will start to get the cultural nuances when you actually go and then, really get the questions answered. It made me better because not every time you're prepared for all the three structured approaches to it. When you're exposed to different mindsets across the world and the amount of diversity you experience, you learn as a leader, you get better as a leader. So I have only gained from all this by being global.
As a final takeaway, Mr. Madabhushi, are there any words of wisdom or advice you'd offer to an aspiring professional looking to carve their own career trajectories?
Only thing I would say is, be curious, really strive for excellence in whatever you do. Yeah, when you strive for perfection, you catch excellence on the way. I keep saying, right? So strive for whatever you do and just enjoy life.
Very true.
Those are the three I would tell them additionally. That's it.
That's a lovely way to round things off and to have this entire conversation come to a close. Mr. Madabhushi, thank you so much for being here with us in this episode of C-Suite Conversations.
Thank you very much.
From the cultural intricacies of managing across geographies to learning at every life stage, these are the lessons that we learned from Kalyan Ram Madabhushi. I hope you enjoyed this episode of C-Suite Conversations, and we'll see you in the next one. This is me, Kayan Karai, signing off.